Welcome to Let's Get Real,
Welcome, everyone.
episode
23.
Okay. So today we're gonna revisit one topic that I'm very passionate about, and I'm sure you are as well.
Yes.
Mental health breakdown. Do you recognize the signs?
That's a good topic. That's
Yes.
a good topic. Let's go.
So let's go. So how do you know when you're simply stressed versus when you're experiencing a mental breakdown? I mean, from your experience.
Well, you just gotta examine yourself. If you feel like something's not right, and you just gotta go within. Okay, I need to speak to somebody. I'm not feeling my way. I'm not feeling I'm not feeling myself right now. I need some. Whenever you recognize that you want to be alone, that you don't want to be bothered, then something's wrong. So you gotta recognize those signs, right? When you feel like you're down and you're not motivated, coming from a place where I was like in total darkness, that was me back then. So learning how to recognize that and seeking the help immediately, and don't let that bubble burst, because that's what's gonna happen. If you keep holding it in, it's gonna keep getting worse and worse. So the best thing to do is to recognize those signs right away and seek the help. Speak to a therapist, speak to a psychiatrist, or speak to the doctor. Tell them what's going on. So just let your spouse know, or your significant other know, what's going on, a family member. Just speak up. Speak up. As soon as you feel something's not right, seek the help immediately. All right, and it's gonna help you a lot.
So it's easier said than done, right?
Absolutely.
Because I know for myself, when I'm stressed, I can tell, the difference. I'm stressed, I'm going through something, whatever. But mental breakdown is something serious, right? Like I had an anxiety attack the other day. I'll be transparent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what was going on with me, right? I had a lot going on in my head, right? And be mindful. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how happy you think you are. When you're getting a mental breakdown, it just comes, it creeps in, and it's not something that you can control, right? So, like you said, recognizing the signs, right? Recognizing that there is something really wrong with you. That is the key, right?
Yes.
And the steps that I'm taking, that I could tell you that I'm taking is, making sure that I stay on my routine in the morning. I meditate in the morning. I do my workout in the morning. I also I'm gonna incorporate now. So we're gonna go do some yoga this weekend, some hot yoga, right? That will help us, because another thing that happens when you're going through a mental breakdown, everything starts hurting. I don't know if you notice, but
it affects your whole body.
My back hurts, my this hurts, my that hurts, and it's like, why is this hurting, right? And it's because you're going through, this situation, right?
Yeah.
So it's important that you recognize those signs and act on it, right? So what warning signs do people often ignore before they reach a breaking point?
Well, like I mentioned, holding it in. Once you reach that level of let's say, that breaking point, it's like you burst, and you might cause that to reflect on, not only yourself, but your coworkers. You're gonna take it on your coworkers. You're gonna take it on your family members. You're gonna it's gonna overflow.
Yes.
So if you're gonna be miserable, you're gonna make other people miserable because you are down as well. So just like I said before, seek the help right away.
Yes.
Speak up right away.
And also,
don't let it get to that level.
yes, thank you. And also, signs of going through this situation, a mental breakdown or mental health issue, is isolating yourself from people and not even wanting to hold conversations, right? So, the last couple of weeks, that's how I've been. I don't even want to hold conversations with people. I just pray that people don't speak to me, right? And it's just because, I'm going through a moment, and it's nothing personal. And I truly do believe that people do think it's about them. I always say, that other twin came out, and it just happens, when you're going through a situation, you can't control it, right? And I'm not gonna apologize to anybody. I'm not gonna apologize for me not feeling well and you taking it personal. I'm not gonna apologize. That's just simply that. And don't apologize. I don't expect anybody to go around apologizing to everybody just because you're feeling a certain. It's like they should be concerned about you instead of you being concerned about them. So do not apologize for going through a mental breakdown and being the way that you're going through what you're going through, and people not understanding you. If they don't understand you, then they don't need to be around you. As simple as that.
Yeah, another thing that causes all that mental breakdown is, also could be the work, a lot of work. And sometimes, jobs tend to get stressful, and what they call that, when you your mind is
idle.
Yeah, so it's just, so just check yourself, examine yourself. How do you feel today? It's good to talk to yourself, and the best conversation you're gonna have is with yourself. That's what I always say. When you talk to yourself, you examine yourself, and see how you're feeling, and just before you even go out there, just check yourself, before you go into the world,
Yes.
and see what's going on,
Exactly. So why do so many people feel they have to appear strong instead of asking for help?
It's the pride, I guess.
Yes.
Some people have that pride that, I'm a tough person, or if you're a man, it's something like, I'm a man, I don't need to cry about this thing or that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's okay not to be okay, even if you're a man,
Yes.
It's okay, to acknowledge that you're going through something, and you need to do something. So it's like, just because you're a man or you think you're a tough person doesn't mean that you can't go through something that, that's, through mental health issue, so just keep that in mind, that even though, how tough you are, it doesn't matter. You could speak up. Just don't hold it in, just speak up.
No, and also for women, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, we tend to try to be everything for everybody, right? We have to balance our lives out. We don't have to be everything for everybody. We don't have to know everything for everybody. So just be mindful of that that it's okay, like you said, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay for you to take a step back and say, well, let me re-examine what I'm going through. You could separate yourself. But remember, don't isolate yourself so much to the point where you're alone and you don't have anyone, right? That's dangerous, right? Yes. But also, don't try to be the strongest person in the room, because we're never the strongest person in the room. We always need somebody there to support us, right? And to guide us through, right?
Yes.
So how can family, friends, or co-workers recognize when someone is silently struggling?
Well, if you're a family member, let's say you're my spouse, right? You're my spouse. You know me.
Am I?
Yeah, you know me. I know you. We've been together a few years. So it's like, I know when you're down, when you're quiet, and you isolated. I know when something's wrong. So if you recognize that family member, is different, is acting different from how they usually act, then you gotta ask them the question, hey, what's going on? Everything is all right? I know sometimes people don't want to talk, they just want to be to themselves and stuff like that. But it's okay to ask them, that way something's not right, and you could keep that in mind. Like they say, you go to work, you pick up the phone, you call them, you check up on them, right? If you haven't spoken to somebody in a few days and you think that's strange, then you have to call that person, that friend, and see what's going on,
Yes.
So,
make sure you check in on people. That's a very important thing. Check in on people. Make sure that you, especially if you think that something is wrong, right? Continuously check on people, because people hide behind that smile, like, and it's very dangerous, There's a lot of hurt behind a lot of smiles, all right? So continuously check on people.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, you never know.
Yes. So what practical steps can someone take today to protect their mental well-being before they reach a crisis?
Speak up. That's the number one thing you should do. There are, millions of therapists out there, help that you could, the 1-800 number that you gotta call, the hotline number that they're willing to, step up and help you, You're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
You're not alone. You cannot go through this alone.
Yes.
You can't do it by yourself. You cannot do it by yourself. You need professional help. You gotta seek the help. All right. So listen, we're not professionals. We just experienced in the situation. We went through mental health issues. We know what it is. And we're sharing. What it is that we did that helped us. And we continually help us because we're not perfect. We all go through something. We all still struggle with mental health. It's like, but you do not have to be alone and go through it alone.
Yes.
All right?
So the steps that I would take was first recognize, right? Recognize there's something wrong. All right? Once you recognize there's something wrong, take the steps to make adjustments, right? If it is that, you're struggling to get out of bed, find something that, think about something that you're grateful about, right? And why should I get up from bed? Why should I make the first step to even get to that bathroom? Because I know it's hard, right? After you make the first steps to get out of the bed, then think about, what activity can you do, right? That will keep you busy, Then, think about people that you could touch, people that are probably in a worse situation than you, how you could help them, how you could make a difference in their lives, right? So you could pour back into yourself, right? Because on your lowest moment, you still are able to pour into people, right?
Yeah.
And give back, right? So think about those moments, right?
Yeah.
And seek the help, right? Like talk to a therapist, talk to somebody, because you're not alone. You're not unique. This is not unique cases where, this is only me and I'm the only one going through this. No, you're not alone. People are struggling day in and day out, especially mostly since the pandemic. We have a lot of people that are struggling with mental health issues. We have people that think they're going through they're getting a heart attack, but they're getting panic attacks, and this is a real thing, right? It's a real thing. And again, it doesn't matter what financial status you're in. It doesn't matter, if you live in Beverly Hills, if you live in the Bronx, if you live in, in Staten Island, it doesn't matter. If you live in a skyscraper in New York City, it doesn't matter. Mental health, when it hits you no matter where you're at, no matter what situation you're in, no matter if you owe $1, no matter if you owe $100,000, it's gonna hit you no matter what. And sometimes it comes sideways. It doesn't even tell you. It doesn't tell you when it's coming. It just comes, right? And it's important that you recognize it, that you take action, that you understand what it means and how you feel, right?
Yes, it creeps up on you, but to touch back on the things that you could do, find a routine that works for you and commit to that, for the first 21 days. For the first 21 days, you find a routine. Let's say, for example, if it's exercising, some type of workout, to keep the mind busy, right? And, you do it every day, and you create that routine, and it's going to improve your mental health as well. It worked for me, and I'm sharing with you. I've been doing that for, over a year now. Straight routine, and it has helped tremendously. So I highly recommend that you find something that you could do, whether it's journaling, working out, just do it for the 21 days, and I guarantee you that you're gonna create that habit, and you can't go without it. It's gonna be one of those things that is just gonna click, So that's one of the coping skills that I've learned, you know, when I went to therapy, to find some activity that you could do, so that it could like make you like brush it off, basically. As soon as you start feeling like something, and you just do your routine, trust me, it's gonna be you're just gonna move on from it. It's gonna try to creep up, but once you do your coping skill, it's gonna like run from you. I'm not saying that it's not gonna come back. Every day is different. Every day we feel different. Every day we have our days. There's days that I could be down, but learning coping skills will help you bring yourself back up.
Yes.
Right? So do your research.
Yes. So in closing, mental health doesn't always announce itself with obvious signs. Sometimes it's hidden in a smile, a busy schedule, or words, "I'm fine." Pay attention to yourself, to those around you. Seeking help is not a sign of weakness. It's an act of courage. Your mind deserves the same care and attention as your body. Remember, you don't have to carry your burden alone.
That's a good quote. You're not alone. And I like that quote because it is a mind-body connection. If the mind is not right, the body's not gonna be right. So it is a mind-body connection.
That's
So
a feed.
learn things that are gonna feed your mind, that are gonna improve your mind, so that your body could be good. All right. So.
And I think
Yes.
that people don't realize that. I tell my mom this all the time. Stop watching so much news. If you already watch the news at 6, don't watch the 11 o'clock news, because it's not going to change, right?
It's not healthy.
It's just another crime that happened, in between the 6 o'clock news and 11 o'clock news. It's just like, it's a lot. It's, to listen to all the negativity, all the negative stuff that happens, also the negative stuff that happens on social media. Like, don't focus on people beating up people, like fights and stuff like that, like negativity, because all that does is flourishes back into your mental health, right? And also watching a lot of these, celebrities, that are getting their body done and looking good, and you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what these people mentally are going through right now. They may show you something, but they're probably going through their own situation, and we're here pouring in, to them, and not understanding that we have to pour into ourselves, So make sure that you do that you understand, that you see the signs, and understand that you're not alone, right? You're not alone in this situation.
Yeah, and if you're not good, then you won't be good for others. You're not gonna be good for your spouse or your significant other. If you don't take care of yourself first, then you won't work for anybody else. I'm just saying. You won't function at your job. You won't function in your relationships, in your household. So it all starts with you. So you gotta make sure that you're good, And so make that commitment to work on yourself, and to dedicate time to yourself, to your mind, all right, and to your body, because nobody is gonna come and do it for you. We could tell you what it is that you gotta do, but you have to step up yourself and do it.
They give you advice,
so
but I mean, like we said, like even a therapist could give you advice, right?
Yeah.
Because they give you coping skills, but it's up to you to take that advice and take that, those steps to make it happen.
Faith without works is dead. If you're not putting the work, you could have faith, but you gotta put the work in, in order for everything to come together. So you have to do it yourself.
And like Denzel Washington said, right? Dreams without a goal are only dreams, right? You have to put goals together, right?
Yes.
So those are little tiny goals, right? Like today, right? Take the step to say hello to somebody, or smile at somebody, or even get up from the bed, right? That's a small step, right? So put those, those goals together, but also understand that, just you thinking about, I really want to be at this point, it's not enough,
That's true. That's a good advice. Yeah.
So thank you to another episode, and remember, you're not alone. All right?
Stay blessed.
Stay blessed.